Okay, good evening. Welcome to the General Government Meeting 2, as we say it, for December the 11th, 2019, which I just noticed that's 2 weeks till Christmas. I'm sure everybody's got their shopping done and everything. No? Got awful quiet.
Yes, we do.
Yes, you do. All right.
I think we got one more to go.
And welcome. So would you call a roll, please?
Councilmember Cochran? Here. Councilmember Gonzalez? Absent. Councilmember Hamrick?
Here.
Councilmember Jaquez? Absent. Councilmember Meisner?
Here.
Councilmember Turner? Absent. Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Here.
Mayor Troutman?
Here. All right, well, then this evening, as we've done in past, we've had different directors come and give us an overview of what they're doing and what they'd like to talk to council about. And this evening, we have a stirring presentation by our city clerk, Cindy Owens Foster. And you also have in front of you a list, which I thank you very much for that list of the types of meetings and things. Is there anything you would like to discuss with us at this time? Just go ahead.
Not specifically. One of the things that I would really like to look forward in the future is to go digital, just because of the cost difference, which we sat through. And Mr. Meisner may throw things at me, but that was one of the things that we've been looking at, simply because of time and cost. Otherwise, just listing all the things that go on in the city clerk's office. I think sometimes people don't realize the different things that come through my office on a daily basis.
Well, I too, I get all mine digitally. I don't, I get enough paperwork in my business, and I prefer that. And if I want something, I'll just print it at my company, and that's that. So I would, of course, I won't get the final say, but I would move toward that as well. This is a modern age, and I think you should do that.
Also,
So-
it should be noted that he's leaving.
No.
Yeah, he has never received a paper copy, though.
I
One
never
thing
have.
we're looking at is going to a bigger tablet and/or Chromebook, some kind of a laptop, so that it's easier to read an entire page at a time. That is my goal if we go this way, and we will still save quite a bit of money by doing that.
No, I'd agree with that. The book or the tablet that we have is pretty slow and a little cumbersome, but I bring my own. A lot of us have our own laptops and everything. So, Mr. Meisner, you look at me in a quizzly fashion. Would you like to add something? Because I'm not done yet.
Good.
So,
Finish.
okay, then, well, okay. The Cora requests, those are the
Yeah.
requests for information. That seems like, is that we have 107 requests since,
And that was the 1st of November. Since then, I've probably received about 15 more.
Those are all directed at our administrator, too.
Mostly building and streets. They want to know information about permits or what's been done, or,
Really?
yes. That, I would say Kathy Olsch probably gets 45 to 50% of all of my Cora requests.
for
So-
historic type things that occurred or may not have occurred.
Yeah, they're buying a house, or they bought a house and they're trying to get information on it. They want to know what was permitted, or there, some legal stuff going on in town, so they want to know the background of who permitted what and what was supposed to be happening and if it was inspected.
Okay.
Okay, that makes a little more sense then.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Meisner? I saw you were on my register
That's
here,
com-
so.
Yeah, and you deleted my button.
you
And
would-
these are without any of the police department. Mine is kept separate from theirs on their requests.
Okay,
So that's just for City Hall.
wow. Go ahead.
It would be interesting to, if I may be allowed to.
Yes,
speak.
please go, Mr. Meisner.
Without creating more work, would be nice to see those requests categorized. I think when the naked eye looking at those, it's like, whoa, but then as you get an explanation, then it makes much more sense.
I can get numbers for you, the different departments where they go if you'd like.
I don't know.
I have them all
Maybe.
in a file, so, because I have to keep them for 2 years.
Or categorically, if we said, building zoning and those types of things.
I look at that,
Versus-
it's like a negative connotation to see that many.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Oh.
But it's really
But-
not,
But if
Yeah,
they're
it's not really
yeah.
not, no.
Yeah.
That's
once you
actually,
understand the numbers, then
we
it's-
get less than a lot of cities our size, to be honest.
How would you categorize those to kind of get the normal business ones
Away
chunked
from,
over
yeah.
here? You know what
Well-
I'm saying? Or does it make?
If
We
you-
can look at that and try and come up with some categories so we can bring back to council.
I think that if I look at it from my company, if I was getting complaints, I'd want to know what they are. Just don't give me the minutia of everything. I don't even need to know that necessarily. But if the two of you were to say, look, we're getting a lot of inquiries over here in this sort of thing, maybe that's something council ought to be alerted to that we need to look at for something other. I will say that the mayor's meeting, which we meet once a month, these small towns are beset with that, and they don't have the capability of, some of the towns don't even have a copier that could do it. And we had a long discussion on it, and what is the statutory requirement for number of pages and things of that nature, and if that, the one, and it was Rockville, thought they had to give out this mountainous amount of paperwork, and it was, no, just, you don't have to do that. So I don't know enough about it, but they were just, it was costing them money they don't have. And so there is a statutory requirement, I think, for a certain level or certain amount.
They have to give the paperwork they have, but they're allowed to charge a certain
Charge.
amount to recoup that
Okay.
cost. Same with time, you give 1 hour free. Anything that it takes over that hour, you charge, I think it's $7.50 for every 15 minutes.
Okay.
And we do have requests that go well over the hour.
Okay.
Just depending on, one that I just did, and I sent information back to Utah, I want to say, was almost a $300 request because it had so many large things that we printed and shipped, and the time it took to print all of them. And it was to do with litigation of some sort about a building. I don't ask details, I just say, okay,
Sure.
what do you need, and this is how
Right.
much it's gonna
Yeah.
cost, and do you want me to do it or not? A lot of times we try to do things digitally so that it doesn't cost them or us. But obviously the big maps, you just can't do that way. They're too large
Sure.
to send, so.
I think that, in my recollection, was the cost to them, and that they didn't realize they were allowed after a certain point, and after that, they're allowed to charge. And to alert them that this is going to be X number of dollars in their opinion, and that's what, that was their concern, because they don't make that much money. Mr. Meisner?
Do we have a core policy?
A Cora policy?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And it's printed on all our forms for the public when they fill them out.
Okay.
All of the cost is encompassed on that form to tell
Yeah.
them exactly how it's handled.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Are you done, Mr. Meisner?
No, but unless somebody else wants to go.
Mr. Hamrick does.
Go, John.
So just a request, and my request would be, Ryan, if there's something where city council or the city has a dog in the fight, so to speak, I mean, so if we're being asked, who approved this, who approved that, that's stuff that just is kind of, I think, normal part. But if there are things coming in that implicate, other issues that council may be involved in, it would be good to know that if we have some of those. So if you do get some of those.
And we really haven't.
Yeah.
90% of what we deal with is just basic requests about information that we have on storage.
Right. Okay.
So,
Okay.
But absolutely, if
Oh,
if
yeah.
there's something serious that it involves council, we would absolutely alert you.
Are you done, Mr. Meisner?
No.
Would you? Because Ms. Smith would like to talk next. Ms. Smith, go right ahead.
I was just going to also suggest that if we are going to departmentalize some of those core requests, maybe to do that a little bit with the special city council meetings too, since there has been some confusion by the public on what that special city council meeting means and what we are actually doing. Nothing too specific, but even just some general categories, so they know what is actually happening with
It's
those.
not some secret
Not there in
meeting.
public, yeah.
okay.
That's all. But thank you, you've done a lot. We really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr.
the
Meisner?
work you've done.
What could maybe help there is if we, the term special city council meetings, that should say special public city council meetings, and then another category of executive sessions, so that there's a clear distinction in terms of, granted, it was a special meeting, but it's still a public meeting, and that's been the controversy, is that when you look at special, people immediately assume that it was a non-public meeting, and most of those special meetings are public meetings.
Majority.
So if we could maybe categorize that, but I'm curious, when you talk about, you talk about 22 regular council meetings and 53 special meetings, what are you telling us there?
I was just counting meetings.
Okay, just counting meetings.
Just counting meetings, how many that, looking at what I do with my time, how many agendas, how many minutes.
Packets.
That's where, how many packets, that's where my time gets spent.
And attending,
And attending, yes.
reviewing YouTube videos.
And then what are the trainings that you hosted?
We hosted, two liquor trainings, we do them each year.
Okay.
The Department of Revenue comes down and does server trainings with the bars and liquor stores. And then this year we hosted an election training here for the first time for CMCA, for the Colorado Municipal Clerks Association. So we had people actually come from quite a few places in the state. I think we had 20 people that came down for our, and we will be hosting hopefully a Quora class in February. I like to host things. I'd
And
rather
then-
them come to us.
And then relative to the automation, and I realize that I just said that, but I think when we get into the new council year that we should poll council, and those that want to be automated, let's get them automated and start seeing how the system works. I fundamentally don't have a problem with it. It's just, if there's gonna be some software available that allows me to take notes prior to the meeting, because that's half of, or 3/4 of my work, is to be able to just scribble on my sheets.
Absolutely.
And then that paperwork then comes to the meeting and I can ask semi-intelligent questions.
And that is one of the things that, when I've been talking to IT, that we've been discussing. We want to have something that is touch, that you can use a stylus and write just like a pen
Yeah,
on.
okay.
And there are a lot of different applications that you can use, so not everybody would even be required to use the same one, because we all use different types
Right.
to do it. And that is one of the things that we're looking at. If it is something we end up doing and liking, then we will look at some software that makes putting all of it together and to you even easier. But we don't want to do that unless that's really where we're going. We don't want to spend that money. So we're looking at that in the future, but we want to get started with it and then move into that other area.
But some of those council people that want to do that, I could probably help with that process. But then the other issue that comes up with hard copy versus electronic is, this is personal, but I typically like to save some of the things that we work on that are in process, like stormwater and streets or 2A projects, and those long-term things, I like to keep that paperwork because I have, as I mentioned to you, I need to clean out my files at home and purge some of that stuff that I keep, just all that information that I can refer back to, like the riverfront zoning thing. That's a whole file, and rec center.
And that's something I can look at with apps, that you could be able to section some off and save it.
Yeah.
And file
Right.
it all in a file together. So that's, let me write, I'll look for that in some of the apps that we're looking at.
And just maybe how they structure that. You may have a menu, you know, your main menu, and then those are linked, each of those menu steps are linked to a particular folder, so that you could save that particular folder. There may be some process.
Instead of having a file that's
Right.
150 pages long.
Right.
You got 10 folders,
Yeah.
if you have 10 menu items,
I
and
would like,
then
it'd make it easier to find where you're at,
you just
Okay.
link that
instead of having
file,
to scroll.
Yeah.
do a
I
hyperlink,
agree.
and that may help, and then I would have the ability to save my file that I want, and
Okay, I'll look at some of the, like I said, I've just been working with IT. We've been pulling up some different apps and just getting some ideas at this point.
Okay.
So absolutely.
Do you want to schedule a meeting for next year? I'm sorry. I think it's, to me, I didn't, from the very beginning, I didn't want the paperwork because I can keep it in my laptop or in my, and just read it. And then if I need it, I will draw it out or I can make notes on it. So, yeah. Okay.
I think I'm gonna take the courage and take the leap of going digital. So I've had a strong hold to my paper and pen, but I'm willing to
Oh, my God, yeah.
make that
Well, you do
transition.
that for
It
me.
needs to be done.
But if we were to do those things, have the ability to save a file, which I think, from my process and what I know, that if you had an agenda that was linked to folders or files versus, embedding those files, and then give me something that, with a small stylus, I can make notes on a page.
Yeah, stylus was definitely one of the must-haves.
That would probably
for notes.
Like a
address,
touch screen and a.
Yep.
would make me to the point where I was willing to put my toe in the water,
Or his stylus.
or my stylus.
Right, no, and it's available, and I too, way too many copies. I find it so, if I need to, I can throw it in the cloud or I can take a copy of it. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I got way too much paperwork at home.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it's harder to keep track of, I think, where if you
Oh,
have it
yeah.
on a file
Yeah.
on your laptop, or on your tablet or laptop or whatever, it's much easier to
more
access when you want it.
organized.
Yeah.
Which may limit the type of tablets we get storage-wise, or rebuildable, expandable storage, to some degree. I mean, you gotta have a
Yeah.
limit there, but,
We'll come up with a couple options and
Okay.
bring that back to council so they can,
Yeah.
yeah.
I just wanted to see how you were feeling towards it before we got too far into really researching some of the things that we could use. If everybody was totally against it, there wouldn't have been a reason to go
I don't
for it,
like
to
it,
go
but-
further.
Do you want to ask our future council members
yeah,
down
they're
there?
here. Tim's,
They
they're
both always have things with it, so.
Yeah, I
And then
think, yeah.
And I don't know, I think I'm good for moving on, but I thought just going back to the duties and the things that you do, you might want to add on to your list are your recognition and declaration certificates and letters, because you spent a lot of time on that. You probably did hundreds and hundreds of those.
So that I don't have to sign all of them.
Yes, she did. Oh, they were fun. Okay. I got a special pen, by the way. I went to a certain company in town, a large international, any large company, and they recommended a 1.6 soft gel, and that's a fatter, and it's,
It's because of those feeble hands.
well, no, I have such a wonderful signature that, run on it very quickly. Mr. Hemrick, get me out of this, please.
Oh, just a suggestion, one of the holdbacks on our current tablets is that there's no USB port.
Okay,
And so that takes away a lot of opportunities for additional storage and things like that.
and that's one reason I was really looking at laptops, to be honest. The Chromebooks where we've looked at some that you could fold back and some different things that you can do with them, for all the versatility that you can use them for.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
No, I feel like I've
Let's,
moved.
Nervously
Let's
moving
go.
forward.
yeah.
Thank you, City Clerk Cindy.
Yes, thank you very much.
And let's move on.
Thanks for all you do.
Well done. I appreciate what you do. Mr. Meisner.
Mr. Mayor and council, those that are present, I move that the city council have an executive session to consider the purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, sale of real, personal, or other property pursuant to CRS 24-6-4024A, specifically, something's wrong there, specifically for the donation of property to the city, and have another executive session to determine positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, develop a strategy for negotiations, and/or instruct negotiators pursuant to CRS 24-6-402E, specifically consultation with the city attorney regarding directions in negotiations.
Okay. Any questions on that motion?
Second.
Oh, sorry. Asked for a second. Thank you so much. Any questions on the motion? Would you call a roll, please?
Councilmember Cochran?
Aye.
Councilmember Hamrick?
Aye.
Councilmember Meisner?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Hi.
Okay, then we'll adjourn to the upstairs. All right, thank you.